Okay, I want every single person to get up. Every single person to get up, and I want you to put your right hand in the air. Every single person to get up, put your right hand in the air. And I'm going to tell you this is going to be speaking from the heart like I've never spoken before. I want you to take your right hand, put it across your left shoulder, okay? And I want you to pat yourself in the back 3 times and sit down. And I'll tell you why you're patting yourself in the back. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that this is a full sukkah of millennials. This is the future, given the amount of intimidation that goes on in LA and in the world. I speak at a lot of different events. I spoke at an event 48 hours ago where at least half of the people told me afterwards, their parents says, what, you're going to an event, there's going to be an Israeli flag there. This is exactly the theme of what I'm going to talk about today, is how unbelievable the influence is of the media and what's really going on in the world. So what does a good public speaker do? A good public speaker, I'm going to shoot that dog. A good public speaker will put himself into the mind's eye of the audience. So figure 23, 24, 25, right? Most people are single. So what if I was sitting in your shoes, right, under a sukkah, listening to a dog bark, what would I want to hear that'll hopefully give me tools for the rest of my life?
I'm going to shut that dog out.
If I leave here in 40 minutes or so, and you don't have certain tools for life, I have failed miserably as a speaker. So 2 things. I've got to try and put myself into your shoes, and a good public speaker will make sure that you remember at least the basis of what I'm going to talk about. The memory part is easy, because everything I'm talking about is based on an acronym that I just made up called Israel. ISRAEL. Let's start off with a question. Why do people lie? Why do people lie? This is one of my TED Talks. Why do people lie? I mean, present company excluded, but theoretically, people do lie, right? Why do people lie?
Because they know what they did was wrong.
Okay, one, that what they did was wrong. Next, to protect himself. Next,
They don't want to take responsibility.
not take responsibility. Anything else? These are all right, by the way. Everything's great.
Get something out of someone else.
Manipulate? What's your Hebrew name? Your Hebrew name. Why?
It's also my English.
Why do people lie?
Why do people lie? To
Yeah.
get something out of someone else.
Okay, how about if I told you every single thing that you guys have said is spot on? Definitely the average IQ has over 100. People lie for all those reasons. What if I were to tell you that sometimes people don't even realize that they're lying? How do I know that that's true? I want you to say the word silk 7 times with me. The word S-I-L-K at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Silk, 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 silk. Okay, what do cows drink? They drink water. Okay, now why is it that half the audience screams out milk?
It's programming.
It's called the illusory truth effect. So the illusory truth effect works like this. If a person hears something at least 3 times from ostensibly a credible source, what happens to the cognitive and neurological process is you drop your critical thinking and you become like an automaton. And you just drink the Kool-Aid and you start parroting. Rabbi Jack knows, I've been on campuses many, many times with Dennis, with Ben Shapiro, with other people, and I've asked these people, can you just explain to me why you're protesting? They have no clue. All they're doing is they're repeating what social media, what pop culture, and what the mainstream media is telling them. So in many ways, I look at the cards that I've been dealt, and I've been in a very unique position. Why? When I was at Morgan Stanley, I covered Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, when I was there, and a lot of the people that I met, these are the guys today that are building the biggest apps. I know some of them. Some of them have resigned from the biggest tech companies because they know that they're creating addictions, they know they're creating automatons, and they know that they are dumbing down the United States. Okay? I also happen to work with Jimmy Donaldson, who's the biggest YouTuber in the world today. So I understand virality and the subliminal subconscious way that we see the world. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the basic myths, right? The myths that pop culture is telling you. And we're going to dispel those myths. So that every single person walks away after I speak, after the 20-minute standing ovation. And you will have, for the rest of your life, when people come up to you and start parroting what they've heard on Facebook and mainstream media, you need to have the tools to refute this. It's not enough to have emotions. It's not enough to sing a tikva. You need to know the facts. Okay. We said the acronym Israel. With this acronym, I'm going to break down the most popular myths that are happening in America today. Let me tell you why I'm so charged and so fired up about what's going on. Besides what's self-evident, and the fact that I'm obviously very involved in the Jewish community, I was the keynote speaker at a Sukkot program in Jerusalem. I had several hundred people. Shabbos, Saturday the 7th, I go downstairs. By that time, I was friendly with, most of the people. The Arab staff came up to me and they said, Rabbi, obviously I was keeping Shabbos. It's a bad thing if the rabbi doesn't keep Shabbos. And they started showing me their phones. I nearly vomited, and I wish I had not seen what I saw. This is the beginning of this is the beginning of October the 7th. Sirens were going, and I realized that I've got a very tough role to play. I have to make sure that people don't freak out, but I also have to know that this is Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeret. It's the happiest day of the Jewish calendar, and somehow I have to balance this act. So that's scene one. You should also know that this trip, Rabbi Jack didn't tell you, that Shabbos, I happened to be rushed to the hospital because it was a bronchitis thing, right? I couldn't breathe. It's important to breathe. I landed up going to Hatzales across the street from the hotel that we were staying at, and I landed up at a certain hospital, and the doctor said to me, I'm an Arab, I'm so sorry, and started apologizing for these absolute hooligan animals that broke across the border. So a few things here. Number one, the differentiation between Hamas and Arabs in Israel, and we'll talk about there is no such thing as a Palestinian, which I'll explain to you. And B, the fact that at the end of the day, the way God wired all of us want to be good, and all of us want really to live a wholesome, happy life. Okay. Then I finally got a flight out of Israel. I get a call from Israel Radio saying, is this Anthony Gordon? I thought it was the IRS. I denied it, and eventually I got said, you went to Harvard, you were graduated from Harvard? And I said, yes. You graduated from the Wexner Foundation Heritage thing? And I said, yes. We need a statement from you. I said, what do you mean? I said, are you aware, obviously I was at that point, are you aware of what happened at Harvard? I said, I'm absolutely aware, and it's absolutely sickening. You have a group of people that call themselves the Palestinian Solidarity Group, while the bodies are still warm, are standing up and saying that the whole thing, we've got to see it in context, it's Israel's fault. Besides being completely tone deaf, the insensitivity of becoming political and being an ideologue when people's lives are ruined forever. How do you possibly stand up and not find it repugnant that children are being decapitated, women are being raped in one of the most horrific single days since the Holocaust? So I had to be very careful because the role that I play with, our clients are major NBA and NFL, I'm specifically not political, okay? I've got to be very careful not to take it. So they put a microphone in my face, and I just made the comments, it went somewhat viral on some of the platforms, that there's no way in the world, Veritas is our logo at Harvard, Veritas means truth. If you want to teach people the truth, then you need to be telling the truth. And don't spin things. Look at my face and say, I hate you because you're a Jew. I have no problem with that. But don't start platitudes and try and tell me that you're conflating freedom fighters and Hamas. It caused me to get a number of calls, and that's what I want to discuss with you about, because I realized how many people the average American has been sold the Brooklyn Bridge. So let's talk about the myths, and let's dispel the myths so that you'll leave here tonight and you'll at least have the basis of understanding what's really going on, as opposed to what you see on the Clinton News Network, CNN, and various other mainstream media. Okay, let's talk about I for Israel. How many of you have heard of the concept of Israel is occupying Gaza? There's nothing further from the truth. We left Gaza in 2005. We left Gaza, okay? Here, beautiful plot of land. 8,000 people were living in that part of Israel. We said, Gesundheit, this is your land. We dismantled military things, right? And we said, whatever we can do to help you. Explain to me how we occupying them. Let me just punt all questions at the end because I want to try and build up a case. So the idea of occupying is the completely, and first it's a lie, and it's the antithesis of what we as Jews are about, and what the decision was made by the Israeli government. Again, 2005, 8,000 people who were living there left. We dismantled major military bases, and we left. The idea of occupation is completely wrong, and if that's the case, if Hamas has continued to attack us, which they did from the time Hamas came in 2007, what's this notion of occupation? Point one. Point two. Any of you have heard the idea that Israel is putting blockades and is preventing humanitarian aid to Gaza? That's what you're going to see on probably the two most anti-Semitic newspapers in America today are called the New York Times and the LA Times. They hate us, they hate us, they hate us. Self-hating Jews. Okay, you've heard that argument? Okay. I sit on a committee, just so that you know the background. I sit on a committee with, there's a number of people. We used to report to Ron DeSantis, who's now the governor of Florida, who's running for president. And I'm also the chairman of what's called America's Voices in Israel. We take athletes, celebrities to Israel. So I'm obviously on calls, at a pretty high level. So I think I know what's going on in Israel. Not a single, firstly, the idea of blockade is completely and utterly incorrect. All the Israelis are doing is making sure that equipment or anything that can be given to the terrorists is not going back into that part of the world. You just killed 1,473 of us. We should give you back your guns. Number two, as of October the 21st, we're allowing all humanitarian through Egypt. It's being screened, obviously. They're making sure that they're not taking, but the idea of it being blocked, absolutely absurd. The reason why this drives me sugar, if you see what's going on protesting in London, they're all screaming these occupation, apartheid, right? It's very important that you realize what they're doing is taking buzzwords that is part of the illusory truth effect. They've just heard this 2 or 3 times and they assume this is gospel. Number 3. What about the notion that Israel is indiscriminately targeting Palestinian civilians? We're the only army in the world that lives and fights according to the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention, we're the only people. We sent down leaflets, we warn the things, get out, we're going to bomb the living day, get out. What does Hamas say? They say stay there. Why do they say stay there? Why do they want more blood of their own people? Same reason, it's great PR for them. The more propaganda, the more blood, the more that they can stir the pot. Okay, so I for Israel is, one more, but apartheid. I grew up in South Africa. Apartheid is true separate segregation legislation so that whites and non-whites are completely separate. Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. Israel is the only country where Arabs in Israel have the votes. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where women have full rights. My doctor was an Arab. What are you talking about apartheid? It's very, very dangerous how shallow and how narrow the average universities, the average student's idea is of what's going on, and the idea of what's called propiniquity. When the whole crowd gets involved and starts chanting, it's very dangerous because people start getting intimidated, and you compound that by cancel culture, and people are freaked out today. That's I for Israel. S is let's talk about Hamas, okay? Who is Hamas? It's important that you get the facts. Hamas was an organization that really was started in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna. May he rest in pieces. He is openly admired Hitler, Yamach Shemor. He spoke about the end of the genocide of the Jewish people. He in effect handed the baton to Ahmad Yassin, who became the founder of Hamas. What is the charter? Google, Microsoft, they've all got a charter. You've got a mission statement. Our goal is to sell software. What is the goal of Hamas? Firstly, you've got to understand, Hamas is an acronym for Harat al-Mukaz al-Islam, which in Hebrew Hamas, the word in Hebrew means violence. What does it say in their charter? And I'm going to paraphrase. Calls for, again, paraphrase, the destruction of Israel, the creation of an Islamic government in all of Israel, Gaza, and all areas governed by the destruction of Israel. It's a little bit cagey because later on, if you really look at their charter, it doesn't mean that it's the destruction of every single Jew. That's their mission statement. And that's why people are running around at UCLA and USC saying, what are you doing? They're out to chop your head off and kill you. Next. Let's talk about granularly what their real life goal is. I'm going to quote again. Their charter says, quote, the day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews, when the Jews will hide behind stones and trees. This is in their charter. And so the stones and trees will say, oh Muslims, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. Their ultimate thing is, as Rabbi Jack said, we are the nation that sets the benchmark for morality and integrity in the world. We are supposed to be the light unto the nation. We find life sacrosanct, meaning the idea of pulling out the plug, the idea of not having, is completely antithetic to the way we see the world. They see the world exactly the opposite. Death and becoming a martyr is for them the zenith. It's the antithesis of Judaism. And for them, I don't know if you guys saw tonight, they intercepted a phone call with a Hamas terrorist calling his father, saying how unbelievably proud he should be because he killed 10 Jews. I can send any of you the recording. That to them is life. I'm going to get very graphic because you need to know what's going on. We have recordings of Hamas terrorists having sexual intimacy with dead bodies of our brothers and sisters. We have slow motion of babies being decapitated. We've got a graphic, and the media for the first time was allowed in. We've got a scene where a pregnant woman had her baby cut out and stabbed. These are animals. These are not freedom fighters. Israel, yes, so what about Hamas? Or, how many of you hear platitudes on the college campuses? They really want peace. We want peace. They want a piece of this, a piece of that, different kind of peace. Okay? Let's look at what they're really looking at when they talk about all of these rhetoric that the United Nations has embraced. Hamas does not care about the Palestinians' welfare. How do we know they don't care? They have had over $40 billion pumped into that part of the world. How much of it has gone into hospitals, into schools, into greenery, into building an economy? It's gone to build the most complex tunnels to kill our brothers and sisters. And it's a complete dictatorship, and they could not care their human shields. Next. The idea with the people saying, just, they're trying to emancipate and allow their people to have a say. What did the average Palestinian have to gain by a bunch of animals crossing the border and terrorizing, causing mayhem and murder? Zero. It was unprovoked, was horrific, and it only set any prospect of peace, it only set it back. So when people tell me on college campuses, this peace business, it's so naive and it's complete lie. Let's talk about human rights. When I was interviewed, I had to make the following point because this is unfortunately the culture we're in. I came to this country on a Fulbright scholarship, on a human rights scholarship. I produced the biggest anti-apartheid concert in South Africa's history, and I'm the only person, and I'm just saying that because when they start playing the race card, I'm going to vomit. I'm the only person in the history of Harvard that's published a paper on discrimination in South Africa. I put that all on the table so that my record speaks for itself. I definitely understand, and I would never feel that a person should be subservient to another because of his race and creed. Let's talk about human rights for a second. Liberating or protecting, I'm just reading from some of the quotes that I've seen on college campuses. Liberating or protecting the Palestinian people. This was a premeditated, systematic murder. It had nothing to do with the Palestinian people. They don't care about the Palestinian people. And it's not a government that's run like a democracy. It's a complete dictatorship. And what's happened that we know, the amount of money that has been deployed to Hamas that has gone into the pockets of their leaders is off the charts. Their leaders who live in Qatar, they don't even live there, are billionaires, while there are people that are starving in the street. So the idea that there was some legitimate reason to this is completely and utterly rhetoric that people are embracing. The reason why I'm obviously fired up about this is because you guys are the future, right? You guys are in the epicenter of university, beginning to work, and everyone around you is drinking the Kool-Aid and they're parroting a lot of it. And I want you guys to at least understand, and I'm going to, through Rabbi Jack, I want to give you a little bit of a handout so you've got some of these points, so that you can at least feel that you've got enough tools to have your own little Iron Dome. Next. Okay, we said I is for Israel, S is so, what about Hamas? We said R is for, what do we say R stands for? Really, one piece. A is Amnesty International, human rights. E, equal treatment, the idea of equal treatment, fighting for liberation. Can you explain to me how this idea of Hamas attacking us, what's the connection between any kind of liberation and equality? I want to understand how people think like this. I mean, I know I'm hopefully preaching to the choir, but when I stop people on a college campus, they have absolutely no answer. At the end of the day, Hamas is out to make sure that Israel doesn't exist. Their charter makes it very clear they will not stop until they have a jihad, which means that there's a Muslim caliphate, which means that every Jew has to be dead. And to sanitize their barbaric, whatever they committed in the name of human rights and equal rights is a complete insult to us. Okay. I, Israel. S, so what about Hamas? R, we said, is really one piece. A is Amnesty International, human rights. E is equal. So L, the last letter of our little acronym, is let's do something about it. So I've chosen tonight to launch something. This is going to be in a number of different Jewish organizations, and we are going to make history tonight. Here's what we're going to do, and I need everyone's help in this room. I've spoken to a number of leaders in different organizations, and they love this idea. We're launching the spiritual Iron Dome. Here's the idea. We've done research, and we have the Hebrew names of thousands of the soldiers. So it's a simple match situation. We're going to offer people the opportunity of either studying, learning, whatever level you're on, or saying Psalms, whatever level you're on, or doing any act of kindness. Visiting someone in hospital, visiting an aged. In the merit of doing that, you are going to adopt a soldier in Israel. And the spiritual energy of doing those kind of altruistic, benevolent things acts as a spiritual, angelic dome for that soldier. That soldier, how powerful this is psychologically. One of the things that Viktor Frankl said in his famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, is that when he was in Auschwitz in the Holocaust, he could see that when a person gave up, within days, they were dead. The power of morale, the power of your psyche when you're in a war is enormous. And they've done a lot of double-blind experiments. The fact that a soldier knows that people in LA are doing something in their merit and creating a spiritual shield is something that is unbelievable. When people that we told, the Israelis, like this, they were crying. So here's what I need in practical terms. Can I just say a little bit? I know nothing about building a website. I need help with someone to build a website. I've got all the soldiers' names, and this is going to be very viral, and I've got a lot of people that have got millions of followers that'll help us. Okay, I just need, and I'm telling you this is historical, this is amazing, and each and every one of us in this room is a little bit of a spiritual brick that can rebuild the third temple. It's happening right now, and I was going to do this last night, but I decided this is it. I need a web, to build a website. I don't think it's too complicated, right? We've got to just match soldiers and a drop down of the three options that we have. I've bought the URL, we've got that, so that's ready to go. So that's what I need for someone in the tech world, and then we're going to need a few people just to help us streamline this and put this, to get this thing going. But I want the merit of this to be at A. Schlitt, and I'll tell you why. I'm not just saying it because Rabbi Jack paid me. I speak at a lot of different events, and I can just tell you, It's unbelievable. It's genuinely unbelievable to stand in a sukkah filled with Jewish people on a Tuesday night at 10 or 9:30 o'clock, listening to an unbelievable lecture with some South Africans sweating. I mean, just the average person. There are 9.2 billion people in the world. How many Jews are in the world? 0.02% of the world population. Out of 0.02% of the world population, do you know what percent of those have any idea of the fact that there's a rhyme and a reason, the purpose, there's a GPS in life? You're sitting in a sukkah in Los Angeles. Instead of being out there, with whatever the secular world is saying about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you hear. Do you know what that means? It means, according to the Talmud, that every single one of you, you are the diamonds in a very rough world. And this, your generation, is going to be the people that we're going to hand the torch to. This is, I'm telling you, I've been on the speaking circuit for many, many, many years. There's nothing that warms my heart more than this. It's insane and unbelievable to see a full house against all odds. And I'm sure parents, siblings were saying, you know, it's a Jewish thing, security. It speaks volumes. It really does. It's from the heart. It speaks absolute volumes. And that's why I think it bodes well for this little initiative. And it'll at least make us feel that we're doing something, you know, to help the soldiers and to just grow ourselves, whatever you want to choose to do. I want to end with a story. It's a story about a high school reunion. 20 years after high school, there's a dance party. Let's call the guy Larry. He looks across the dance floor and he sees this young lady, let's call her Jennifer. It's about 20 years after high school. He goes to the headmaster and he says to Mr. Wilson, he said, I've been watching that lady on the other side of the dance floor. Just seems to be so sweet and so erudite, and I see the way she carries. I would have to ask her out on a date. Do you mind if I could get her phone number? So Mr. Wilson says, it's not a problem. It's been 20 years since high school. Larry, I don't know if you remember, but Jennifer is blind. He said, it's not, she's special. I can see it. Phone number from Jennifer. He gives the phone number. Larry calls Jennifer. A few days, boom. They end up getting married. They move to New York. Larry and Jennifer start their life in New York. And Larry loves Jennifer. And he sees the fact that she cannot see a sunset. She can't see the beautiful colors of Central Park. She can't see just everything around her. And he starts feeling so bad. And he starts doing some research. How can he possibly help Jennifer reverse this blind situation? Finally, he looks at Cleveland Clinic. And he sees a special operation called a retina implant. And he comes home back to New York and he says, Jen, you're not going to believe this. I did some research. There's an operation called a retina implant. And if it works, as soon as you take your bandage off, you can see. There's only one problem. There's a 19-year waiting list for this retina implant. He looks at his wife, and a tear wells up in her eye, and he's just broken. He's just broken at this, the woman that he loves, that there seems to be light, but the tunnel is so long. The next night he comes home. Jen, this is it. You're not going to believe it. We leapfrogged over 19 years. We're next. Pack your bags. We're going to Cleveland, but I need you to know something. If after this operation at the Cleveland Clinic, if the operation is successful, the second you take off the bandage, you'll be able to see. There's no recovery. You will be able to see immediately. And if the operation, please God, works, you'll look up and you'll see a man who has a dark glasses and a cane, and that's me. And I don't want you to be shocked, that's me. They pack their bags, they're off to the Cleveland Clinic. 3-hour operation. She starts taking off her bandage and she can see. It's a moment of scintillation. It's a moment that changes her life. They get back, they pack their stuff, they come back to New York. And she wants to see the world. She wants to see the colors. She's never seen this. And she wants to travel the world. She wants to see Jerusalem. She wants to see the Eiffel Tower, the Champs-Élysées. And she asks, Larry, we've got to start traveling. And after a while she says, this is crazy. I mean, I'm schlepping this guy. She said, we need to speak. She says, Larry, I love you. I love you more than words can say. It's a ball on a chain. I just can't carry on like this. We need to get divorced. Larry says, you know what? I love you, Jen. I adore you. I want you to be happy. Calls his brother to pick him up, and he says, Jen, when I leave, you'll hear the door click when my brother picks me up. I left an envelope for you under the pillow in the master bedroom. Please look at that letter. Click. Brother drives him off. Jen goes upstairs. She opens the envelope, and this is what the envelope said. My darling Jen, I love you more than words can say. I want you to be happy. I want you to have a beautiful life. I have one thing and one thing only I want to ask you. Jen, please look after those eyes, because they were my eyes. Before every single one of you comes down to this world, God blows a part of himself into you. It's called the Jewish soul. And he says one thing and one thing only. You're about to embark on the journey called life. Please look after that soul. There's going to be distractions. There's going to be shiny objects. There's going to be eye candy. There's going to be ADHD. There's going to be something called social media. There's going to be a lot of things that are antithetical to the reason why you're here. I've created a GPS. I've given you the instructions for living. We all know the final destination is the Chevra Kadisha. All I ask you when you come to the end of this journey, just look after that soul. Every one of you tonight, you should know, by the way, that just like it's against the Torah for me to eat ham, it's against the Torah to flatter a person, to give false, endearing comment. So what I'm saying is from the heart. I would never say anything just so that you like me. It's unbelievable to see young people taking up their time and committed to learn more about their heritage and committed to accept the torch and hold it up high. For people like myself who've been doing this for a long, long time, there's no more nachas, there's no more sense of energy. And my message to you is you're in unbelievable hands with Shira and Rabbi Jack. It's an amazing, amazing place. Take advantage of the organization, take advantage of, and I will end with the following. If you Google my name, you'll see, because I'm not supposed to say names, but we look after very famous people. I wish good on to everyone. These are household names. I mean, the public ones that you can see if you Google are Bieber and Justin Bieber. These are a lot of people. These are not happy people. And I don't say it with glee. I wish everyone happy. These are people that have the fame and the fortune, and they're miserable because they're missing something which you guys can have. And that's a fundamental purpose for this journey called life. When we did a data mining for Jimmy, we found the number one pain point for Gen Z and millennials is nihilism. They have no purpose. It's like a hamster on a treadmill. What you're going to go through with people like Shira and Rabbi Jack and this whole journey is to understand it's not a fairy tale. God gave us the instructions to live a wholesome and happy life. And that's what I wish for each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and I'll take any questions. Yes?
So back to the occupation portion. So how do you argue against somebody who's saying oh, Israel is cutting off power, water, food sources?
Very good question. You have the question? That's a very common thing that...
Because they use it with the occupation, but how do you use it against them?
Okay. Every single person, it's a great question, and that's also a very common gimmick used in the...
Right.
Every single person that's living in that part of the world would have starved to death not for Israel. The only people that are giving them water, energy, and giving them any food is Israel.
Right.
It's ridiculous. You understand that we gave them this thing and they said, choose your government, do what you want. And they said, we're going to have these terrorist people that are absolute animals who take all the money and build, and they don't care about their people. So there were 22,000 of them that got jobs in Israel. You got to understand, last night I went to Sheba, an event for Sheba Hospital. It's the biggest hospital in the Middle East.
Right.
They treat Arabs, so this idea, this is the classic case of fake news. What they did was they make sure they're getting water from Egypt. They're also going to make sure that there's certain things that they know if they give them, they're going to turn them into arms. Cement, we know that they're going to go straight into the tunnels. So the idea that people are starving to death because Israel is, without question, there's no nation on this planet that has a higher level of human rights and altruism. They have to cause pressure for them. And at the end of the day, they've got 212 of our innocent people deep, deep down in the bowels of the earth. They've got to feel the pain. I mean, it's a war. But the idea that they're not getting water is completely not true. The Red Cross just went in there with, I don't know if, the Red Cross went in on every single day. All they're doing is they're increasing their screening of what goes in there. Completely and utterly not true. And you should take everything with the LA Times and the New York Times with a pinch of sodium chloride. Yes.
Well, I put my hand down because I didn't want to speak out of turn, but I also feel like I've been having a lot of these conversations, and even though I give people that information, they're like, well, Naomi, I respect you and I've known you for a long time, but I'm seeing other news elsewhere, so I can't believe you. And the one thing that I've noticed really works in changing their minds a bit is, okay, if they are cutting off food and water, all they're asking for in return is their 212 civilian hostages back. So shouldn't you be putting pressure on Hamas to give us back the hostages?
It's more than that. When the President of the United States flew to Israel, the one thing that Bibi had to agree to is $100 million of money towards humanitarian things. Do you think they're idiots? They know that a large percentage of that money is going to go straight back into the tunnels. It's completely not true, and that's one of the reasons why. I don't know if I can do it tonight, but please, I'm going to give Rabbi Jack just the cheat sheet. I'm going to give you the sources. I'm going to give you the websites. It's very powerful. Information is very powerful because what happens is most people, it's very emotional, right? You never lose your cool, but if you give them facts and you kill people with kindness, you never scream at a person, and it's not about you're going to win give them the facts. There's an amazing thing. At the end of the day, people have freedom of choice. Once they have the facts, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. If a person is drinking poison and says, do me a favor, you're going to die, you can do a certain amount, you can take the hostel water, but that's all you can do. It's unbelievably dangerous that people harbor certain things. So I'm in the middle of writing a book for Simon Schuster. It's the second thing I've written called they're going to change the name. It's the 7 most common pop culture myths dispelled. If I give you these myths, I guarantee everyone in this room believes these to be true. Things like love at first sight. It's completely the opposite from a Torah perspective. Love is a byproduct of giving. Lust at first sight, that's what it is. But love, what an insult to the concept of love. You live and learn. Torah says the exact opposite. You learn. First you learn, and then you go out and live. And that's what it means on the GPS, you recalculate less. A happy life is a pain-free life. Who made that up? Who said that happiness is not pain? There's nobody that walked into the sukkah tonight. Nobody, I hope and pray, and I'll explain what I mean, that walking in and doesn't have pain, or doesn't have something in their life that's bothering them, or something that they want to look heaven-bound and say, God, why me? Why? Because the Talmud says that if you go 30 days without some kind of pain, it's a sign, it's a very complicated thing, it's a sign of indifference, which is the worst possible thing. That God's saying, okay, go for it. He's involved in your life. And when he nudges you to recalculate, we think it's pain. But it's the most altruistic, benevolent love. He's saying, I love you, sweetheart. You're going the wrong way. And when I steer you that way, from your perspective, but I'm outside town. I'm the drone in the sky. I can see in 4 years' time, I know exactly who you're going to marry. So how do we start this conversation? A lot of is emotions and facts. It's amazing to me. Now, I speak on campuses all the time. Most people are a mile wide and a half inch thick. They just don't have the information. But if you give people the information, most people don't want to live against what is the truth. If you can show people, unless they have a vested interest, we've spoken to professors that if they don't do certain things, they'll get fired. But at the end of the day, people want to respect themselves. You will never respect yourself if you're just repeating rhetoric and deep inside you know it's not true. And I'm seeing it, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not just saying it, we're relying on you guys. And it's definitely the minority. I've been onto campus, I feel the animosity, just walking with a yarmulke. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know all of the arguments, and I'm very confident. But they're out to rip your head off. It's very scary. And it's insidious what's happening on all the university campuses. And they did that on purpose. It's top down, and it seeps into the culture. And I will tell you that they don't, they don't care about minorities. Okay? I was very involved in my family in the release of Mandela. I know about emancipation, the release. They don't care. It's power.